I give you a new commandment, that you should love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. Welcome to this Maundy Thursday worship service. Maundy meaning mandate. Tonight we are invited to reflect on this new mandate, this new commandment to love one another that Jesus gave to his disciples on Thursday before his arrest on Friday. We're invited to enter into and to reflect on some of the events that Jesus shared with his disciples on that day. The washing of feet, the praying, the sharing a meal together. I remember my first Maundy Thursday service. It was here at Pullen. And I don't remember a whole lot of what was said that evening, but I remember what I felt. I remember feeling the significance of the moment, the sacredness of that moment. I can remember feeling the heaviness that hung in the air that evening. And I remember being invited to come to these chancel steps and to kneel here to receive communion. And it was here by this rail, kneeling by Greg Moore, that I remember feeling maybe for the first time that I was truly entering this story. I've reflected over the years why that Maundy Thursday service has stayed in my memory and in my body so strongly, so vividly all these years. And I think as I've reflected that it was that night that I had this overwhelming sense that I was in a community of people who truly loved one another. And I felt like I was in a community that not only where the people loved one another inside this place, but the people here in this community took that love out into the world to love one another. That sense of belonging, of loving, of being out in the world, sharing what that commandment really means. To wash feet. Maybe not literally to wash feet, but to wash feet. To pray not so much in a garden or down on my knees, but to pray with my voice advocating for those who are oppressed. Praying with my hands and my feet and my heart out into the world. And sharing a meal. Yes, definitely sharing a meal with those that I love in this place as we gather around the table here in this sanctuary and in our fellowship hall. But to move outside of this place and share what I have, a meal with those who are hungry out in the world. That is what this night means. How we live this new mandate, this new covenant that Jesus has left with us, his disciples, to love one another. To love one another inside these walls and to love one another outside of these walls. By service, by advocacy, by taking care of one another. And so tonight, as we experience these events and through art and through pictures and through music and through readings, we are invited to reflect on how we are feeling called to go out into the world and to live this commandment. And how we're being called together in this place we call Pullen Church and live this commandment. Regardless of where we are, here or out there, Jesus left us with these important words, this mandate, this commandment, that we love one another. Let us worship together in that spirit.
Open, minds awake, change us now for heaven's sake. Leave us not alone in hatred's wake. Show us how to love, show us how to love, show us how. Show us how to
Hearts open, souls awake, rules we made, we now must break with our very own lives at stake. We must learn to love. We must learn to love. We must learn. We must learn to Eyes open, shocked awake, much to learn from our mistakes. Draw us closer in our heartache. Show us how to love. Show us how to love. Show us how, show us how to love. Show us how to love. Show us how to love. Show us how, show us how.
to love.
This is a reading from the Gospel of John. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Jesus said to him, one who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you. For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, not all of you are clean. After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and returned to the table, he said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you should also do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. As I have prepared for Holy Week, I've returned to the opening lines of Portia's courtroom speech in The Merchant of Venice. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesses him that gives and him that takes. Mercy, that activated form of compassion that desires to alleviate all suffering, seems never to be boisterous, but rather quiet like rain. Its gentle nature lightly touches us in our most vulnerable places, quietly finding its form in our daily lives. Maybe this is why feet washing has a prominent place in the last acts before the crucifixion. The feet, enablers of travel and toil, collect dust from the earth and are often neglected. In a simple action, Jesus and Peter show us that humility and compassion, caring not for social mores, enlivens both the recipient and the giver, consecrating each one equally. Tonight, we return to this ancient ritual, shrouded in mystery and mercy, and we hear it ask, do you care?
From the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, verses 36 through 42, we read, Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to the disciples, Sit here while I go over there and pray. Jesus took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me. And going a little farther, Jesus threw himself on the ground and prayed, My God, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want. Then Jesus came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, So could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray, that you may not come to the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again Jesus went away for the 2nd time and prayed, My God, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. Gethsemane is the moment where there's no going back for Jesus. Here we pause with Jesus in the garden just before his arrest. And I wonder, have you ever felt with Jesus the temptation that comes in the face of difficult circumstances? Temptations to run, hide, use whatever power we have to change things, fight it, even bargain with God.
Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it." They said to him, "Where will you have us prepare it?" He said to them, "Behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house which he enters, and tell the householder, 'The teacher says to you, where is the guest room, where I am to eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he will show you a large upper room furnished. There, make ready." And they went and found it as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. And when the hour came, he sat at table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, "I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I shall not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I shall not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And likewise the cup after supper, saying, "This cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood." That one verse that sticks out for me in this passage is that he gives them the cup and says, "Take this and divide it among yourselves." That cup might be a cup of blessing, sometimes a cup of burden. It seems as if both are present here, but I wonder how many times do we receive a cup of blessing and assume that it's just for us, not even consider how we might divide it among those at the table. Or even that cup of burden, how we sometimes carry that, and even the people who are close to us, even the people who we regularly fellowship with, don't know what we're going through, the struggles we're facing, so that they might help us share that burden. And so my question for you is, how are you dividing the cup of blessing and the cup of burden among you?
Taste and see, taste and see, let all who are hungry come and eat. For the table is ready and the banquet is prepared. Taste and see, taste and see.
A final meal, a holy feast, and still they argued greatest to least. Act of service and love, do this in memory of. Bread was blessed and broken and shared.
Taste and see, taste and see, let all who are hungry come and eat. For the table is ready and the banquet is prepared. Taste and see, taste and see.
I give you a new commandment. Love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you also must love one another. This is how everyone will know that you are my disciples, when you love one another.